On this week's episode of the Texas Sports Hall of Fame podcast, it's part 2 of the 2025 Southwest Conference Hall of Fame Luncheon. Great stuff here. This week, you'll have a chance to hear from Texas basketball's Kirk Dressendorfer, also TCU basketball's Jamie Dixon, and another hoop standout, this one from Texas A&M, John Thornton. And we can't forget about Texas Tech football's Lloyd Hill.
We'll be right back to the Texas Sports Hall of Fame podcast after this message from our sponsors.
This episode is presented by the Hampton Inn Waco. When you come to Waco, be sure to stay at the Hampton Inn Waco. Located just a short distance from the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, you'll start your day off with a delicious complimentary breakfast, and you'll also enjoy the Hampton Inn's free Wi-Fi, fitness center, and pool. Next time you suit up and bring your team to Waco, make the Hampton Inn Waco your home base on the road.
Now back to the Texas Sports Hall of Fame podcast.
In 1987, out of Pearland High School, Kirk picked the University of Texas over the Baltimore Orioles, and he wound up being a 3-time All-Southwest Conference MVP for the Horns, posting a career record of 45 wins and only 8 losses with 33 complete games, the second most ever in wins and also complete games in UT baseball history. The Horns have had only 5 three-time first-team All-Americans: Bert Hooten, Keith Moreland, Greg Swindell, and Brooke Kishnick, and Dressendorfer. He's also one of only a handful of UT baseballers to have their uniform number retired by a program that won 64 Southwest Conference titles. Quite a story, and Dressendorfer made the right decision. He was drafted number 1. He was drafted in the first round in 1990 by the Oakland A's. He played 8 years of pro ball, inducted into the College Baseball Hall of Fame in 2009. Today, he's also now a member of the Southwest Conference Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Kirk. So back when you graduated from high school from Pearland, Baltimore drafted you, I think 34th round. So that turned out to be a really good decision.
It was. I think my dad was on the phone, before the draft with the Dodgers, talking about maybe going a little higher. But 17, 18-year-old kid, I thought going the college route was going to be a better path for me versus going out and be an 18-year-old kid in a professional environment. I thought going to college was going to give me a time to get better as a baseball player and also grow as a person.
How much pressure was there on you going to UT with all the success they had, the Horns had had?
You find out real quick when you get there the recruiting trip's over. It's as soon as I think you had to be in school your first day and it was official, and as athletes, we're not going anywhere after, at least for the year. Coach Gustafson made it real clear that now you have to earn the scholarship, and if you don't, you probably won't be here very long. So the bar was raised really high, and we were always very clear on where, kind of what our expectations were.
What was it like pitching for Coach Coach Gus? I mean, he was a legend in college baseball.
He was, and he coached us hard, and the expectations were high. And kind of getting back to that first day, first practice, he had our stack ranking, and I was number 25 out of 25 pitchers. I didn't even know we had 25 pitchers. My brother, I was like, I don't even know if we had 25 on our football team in high school, much less just pitchers. And he made it a point to let me know where I was on the stack ranking, and then he would tell me, okay, now only the top 10 will travel, and he's telling me I got a lot of work to do and better get there really quickly. So yeah, it was, he had a way of motivating you and getting your attention, so it ended up working out.
Did you get any advice from some of those other big name pitchers from the Horns history?
I did. That was one great thing about having the opportunity to play at the University of Texas. The guys that graduated or got drafted right as I was going, we had, you had Kirk Kribner, Kevin Garner, and Mark Pitt. Guys, you had 4 or 5 guys that all went the pretty high in the draft, and all had successful pro careers. So being that close in age, coming in when they were leaving, and they were around. You also had your Greg Swindells and Roger Clemens and guys that have been at where you want to go, always willing to offer you advice. And, just having somebody that's kind of gone through what you're about to go through and, kind of course correct. And every step of the way is a little bit different. I mean, I think my hardest year was probably trying to follow up a freshman year that went very well, 15-2, first team All-American. I didn't know how hard that sophomore year was going to be, and tried so hard. And I remember Roger Clemens told me, he's like, "You're just trying to strike everybody out on every pitch, And he's like, what are you doing? He's like, you used to just kind of let it happen, and now he's like, doesn't look like you're having fun, and you're trying to do way too much." So it was just having guys like that you listened to that had already been there and already been way bigger environments than I ever, but you have the proximity to them that they can offer you that kind of advice and help you get back on track.
Kirk, your best year, you had 15 complete games. That's pretty incredible. You were a workhorse, weren't you?
Well, not after hearing Wendy's dad, I can't, for my year, yeah, but it's amazing, 24-20, goodness gracious. I do. I think that it's different now. The expectations for starting pitchers not to go, 9 innings, and I think it started, really in high school with our high school coach, Ronnie Johnson. I got pulled up as we made a run my freshman year. I got pulled up as a freshman. We went all the way to state, and so my sophomore year, Deer Park was my first game, and our high school coach basically gave you the ball, and it didn't go well. I gave up 4 2-run homers, so I was waiting to get pulled out of the game. All he did was come out and say, "You better figure out a way to get people out because nobody's coming in for you." So that was kind of the start of going, I sometimes don't have the luxury of somebody coming in and bailing me out. So he let me figure out how to complete games, and it wasn't easy. It's the last 3 outs of a game are always different than any other part of the ball game, and it doesn't matter how well the previous, whether it's a 7-inning game or a 9-inning game, the previous outs and innings are a lot different than the last 3, and it took some failing to get to where you figured out how to get those last 3.
Do you remember a stretch in your time in Texas where it could have been 2 games or 5 games or 10, where it seemed like everything was going right? You couldn't believe how good it was going?
Yeah, I think I got into a really good where the catcher's mitt looked like it was just hitting the back of the wall, and it didn't happen very often in my career, and I think I went 30 or 40 innings without walking anybody, and of course the game, the batter I did walk was in the 9th inning, leadoff batter at TCU up in Fort Worth, and we were winning like 7-1 or 7-0, and I just lost my concentration. It was a 3-2 pitch, a little bit off the corner, and got out of it. We won, but in between games, Coach Gus had us, we were eating our little sack lunch out in the right field between waiting for the second game to start, and I heard it for 30 minutes about how I wasn't concentrating, I'm getting lackadaisical, getting complacent, and I made the mistake of looking around him at the scoreboard to make sure we had won, and that prolonged the conversation. And of course my teammates were like, "We're just trying to enjoy our bologna sandwiches." Quit being that way, and just learn to shake your head so we can go on. But yeah.
You did good. So what does this mean for you to be inducted into the Southwest Conference Hall of Fame?
when I first got notified, I looked up the website, I looked at the names, and I think I've been blessed to have had a good career. It happened a long time ago, but the names you're associated with, and the people that inspired you when you were young, and it's tremendous to even be considered, and again, this goes for individual awards are different because it's it took a whole team. My whole team's here, and my friends and family. It goes back to it took a lot of folks, teammates, coaches, family, friends, that all played a huge part in me sitting here today, and I'm very appreciative and very humbled by it.
Want to tell us who you got here with you?
We've got my youngest, David, and he's a left-handed pitcher at San Angelo playing for Kevin Brooks, who's a Baylor Bear alum, and having a great time with my mom, Judy, my dad, Rich, my brother, Keith, my sister-in-law, Chris, my niece, Blair, who was a great volleyball player in college and high school, my daughter, Josie, boyfriend, Ethan, and we've got all our friends back here with the express table, and Chris Almendaris is a reigning U of H baseball alumni, so we got some Southwest Conference. We got Vanderbilt and TCU and Baylor, Tim Jackson, Baylor Bear. So yeah, and very happy they're all here with me.
They're all very proud of you, and so are we. Kirk Dressendorfer, the Southwest Conference Hall of Fame inductee. All right, our next inductee is now the head coach for the TCU Horned Frogs in the sport he starred in as a player for TCU. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Jamie Dixon. As a standout guard, Dixon was instrumental in leading the Horned Frogs to their first Southwest Conference championship in over 2 decades. Securing back-to-back titles in the 1985 and 86 seasons. In 1987, Dixon was an all-conference selection, leading the Southwest Conference in assists, averaging 5.4 per game. In over 4 years with the Frogs, he played 109 games, averaging 8.1 points per game, and was a picture of consistency for TCU. After a successful playing career and a decorated coaching resume, in 2016, Dixon returned to his alma mater as the 22nd head coach in program history, and during the 2024 and 25 season, Dixon surpassed 500 career wins as a coach, now entering his 10th season with the Horned Frogs. Congratulations and welcome, Jamie Dixon.
Can I say one thing?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Even though he's an A&M guy, don't forget John, because I think we skipped Mr. Thornton there. You got that? All right, go ahead.
All right. As a player with TCU, did you ever envision coming back to the program as a head coach?
No. Well, it was a dream. It was something I always thought about. And actually, Chancellor Boschini is here. He's the one that gave me the chance to reach my dream and come back and coach at TCU. I think everybody who plays somewhere wants to, if they want to get into coaching at some point, would like to coach us. So Chancellor gave me that chance, and he brought me back. So Chancellor is here. So thank you, Chancellor Boschini. Actually, the other guy that was involved in that too was, I can't remember, I had 11 ADs, athletic directors at Pitt, and so he was the one that hired me as well with Chancellor, and I used to call him number 12, just affectionately number 12. I think his name was Del Conte or something, or I don't know if he's still in the business or not, but if he's still working. But those were the two guys that brought
Del
me.
Conte was the 12th man? I thought that was at A&M.
My 12th day. Whenever he got a little too full of himself, I just would say, you're just number 12 to me. So it worked.
You played for Coach Jim Killingsworth.
Yes, sir.
And did you ever catch hints from him that he thought you might be a coach candidate?
That would have been a compliment, so I don't know if that would have gone that way. He was hard-nosed. We got a couple guys that Johnny Pate played for him, a couple guys that are here. Also, two of my dear friends and assistants for us, Dwayne Broussard and Tony Benford, are here. So Tony and I, we always talk about Southwest Conference, so two good friends. But Killer was tough, and he was honest. So I didn't have a lot of conversations with Coach Killingsworth. He was kind of coming to the end, and he coached with fear in mind. So that's how he did it. So my best Coach Killingsworth story was him when he it was a TV game, Raycom. Everybody remembers Raycom back in the day. Raycom Sports, and over at the sideline, and he's screaming at me as normal, as it was during the game, and he's screaming at me, and as he was kind of into his career, his dentures flew out of his head on TV, by the way. So he fumbled, grabbed him, put him back in. He just kept yelling at me right after that. So that was my Coach Killingsworth story. I hope he appreciates that upstairs.
Jamie, you've been quoted as saying sometimes coaches get remembered for being better players than they really were. How would you describe what type of player you were in college?
Well, that probably fits me. I guess I was talking about myself when I said that, but or we remember ourselves as better players than we were. But yeah, I cared. I competed. I got better. I mean, I think that picture there was after about 20, 25 pounds when I showed up at 150 pounds. But you know what I loved about it was at TCU was we weren't very good my freshman year. We got better. I think we finished bottom of the league, maybe eighth. There was only 9 teams then. I think we finished middle of the pack my sophomore year. We had a couple guys that came in. Carvin Holcomb, who's got inducted a couple years back. And then we added some junior college guys, and we had a few guys that grew with the program. Then we won it my junior and senior year, won the Southwest Conference my junior and senior year. And, you know, just building it from, you know, coming at the bottom and having to grow. We weren't one of those perennial powers. We just had built it, this group of guys that stuck together and got better each year and grew and turned it into a Southwest Conference championship. That's what I loved about it, and that's what, to me, the coaching and building the program was. We don't do that anymore today, but with NIL and transfers, but that's how it used to be done.
Made it tougher.
A different world now today.
Yeah, well, you've done a great job. Got an extension. Make sure you keep going at TCU. So it's just testimony. You've done a great job at TCU.
Well, I've been fortunate. It's a great place, and there's a lot of good people around there at TCU. It's great to be where you coach. Got a chance. And a lot of the administrators are there. We've got Steve Jarn at SID, John Denton, football player, but the administrator. We even brought our compliance guy, Greg is here, Greg Featherston. We brought a compliance officer, so a lot of schools are panicking. I see you running and moving here. Don't relax. Relax here, but a couple schools just started. Rice, what's a compliance officer? Why do you need one of those guys? Is what I'm saying. But there's no rules anymore, so we don't need the compliance officer anymore. So we've adjusted. But it's great I have such great support at TCU, and it's just it's been fun, it's been exciting, and I think we're gonna be pretty good this year.
Going back to your playing days, in 1986, maybe your best play ever, we'll see if it was in your mind, you sank a contested 35-footer at the buzzer to beat Texas. Tell us about that play, what you remember about it.
well, you said that was probably my luckiest play, the shot I hit. But yeah, that was, it was beating Texas was obviously big. It kind of clinched the Southwest Conference championship for us, and and at the time, I was a kid from I came from North Hollywood, California. I mean, that coming to TCU and playing in the Southwest Conference. How does a kid from North Hollywood end up in Fort Worth, Texas? And because I had seen U.S. Reed's shot on TV and had played again, I saw Hakeem Olajuwon and the Phi Slama Jam and the Cougars, and so why I went to TCU, I didn't have a lot of options. I was 17 and 150 pounds, but I wanted to play amongst the best. I wanted to play in the best conference possible, and Southwest Conference was the best at that time. All those great players. So to think that we were winning a conference championship at TCU, I think, was the most exciting thing about it to me.
In 1987, the Horned Frogs team you played on won an NCAA tournament game. Then you didn't do that again at TCU for 35 years until your team beat Seton Hall in 2022. How satisfying was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, that was my goal, to come back, and we've won some more, and that was the goal. That's what I wanted to do, and build it to where we are. And we had a little bit of a dry spell there for those 35 years, but we're better and excited about our future, excited about this team. But yeah, no, it was it's why Chancellor, I think, brought me back and gave me a chance, and it's certainly been a lot of fun, and this is really a great honor to be a part of this event. My parents passed away this year, and they would have loved this because they watched every game on the Raycom network on the satellite dish in North Hollywood. So
they're watching.
They're watching. So
yeah.
they would have loved this.
All right, congratulations, Jamie, being the newest member of the Southwest Conference Hall of Fame, doing a great job at TCU. Keep it up.
Okay, thank you.
Let's meet our next inductee, who's standing up as we speak, a longtime Aggie, as both a player and a coach, Dr. John Thornton. Thornton made his mark as a basketball player for Shelby Metcalf as a JUCO transfer from 73 to 75. His first year, he was the Southwest Conference Newcomer of the Year and the team MVP. Averaging 12.7 points per game and 7.1 rebounds. His leadership on the court was instrumental in guiding the Aggies to the 1975 conference title and an NCAA tournament berth. Those same leadership qualities paid off again as Shelton served as a longtime assistant coach for Shelby Metcalf for nearly a decade, and then as an assistant AD for a total of 31 years in College Station. He founded the Texas A&M Coaching Academy, also announced hers as a color analyst for the Texas A&M Radio Network. Congratulations and welcome to the Southwest Conference Hall of Fame, Dr. John Thornton. So, John, where'd you play JUCO ball?
San Antonio Junior College. Okay. After I spent 2 years there, the program went under, so it shows the influence.
So that was a pretty big jump from JUCO to the Southwest Conference and then scoring in double figures.
Yeah, what happens, obviously it's changed so much these days, but the opportunity to get a lot of games under your belt. If you were a dual sport player in high school, you played football and basketball, you really didn't have a chance to hone skills in both sports like you would. So a junior college route for me was really good because I could face the basket and get better and play against great competition, and then have the opportunity to be recruited and finish up in A&M.
What do you remember most about being a player at Texas A&M?
Once the hard knocks of going through junior college and then going to a four-year school where, doing the things that you dreamed about as a youngster, flying around, playing in big arenas, actually being valued when you played. Obviously, the education was always something that was important, that was instilled, but at the same time, your life was dedicated to your sport and being able to play at that level. And as Jamie talked about, that was the league for us. I mean, the proliferation of television and radio wasn't as it is obviously now. So what you grew up in Texas, Southwest Conference was it. And my dad was an Aggie, graduate from A&M, and basically it was a place that had a real meaning for me, and it was a dream come true.
Was there ever a time, it could go either way on this, there was a time you thought, oh wow, these guys are really good, or there's a time like, okay, I can hang with these guys, I can play?
It was a little bit different back then. When you showed up on campus, I think Kirk talked about it, you know, with his track record and what he'd done, and he was number 25, and how recruitment went, it was a proving ground when you got there. It wasn't like the competition really began. It was to get there was one thing, but once you got there, you had to stay there, and you knew that. And if you were cut that way, you had your opportunity, but you needed to make the most of it. And I love competition, and I had the ability to prove myself, and it worked out.
Let's talk about Shelby Metcalf. What'd you learn from Shelby Metcalf?
It depends. There's so many things I've learned from so many people in my life, but he was the guy that gave me the opportunity to realize the dream as a player. But then again, he also had the faith in me and hired me back as assistant coach, where I coached with him for 9 years. And so I learned a tremendous amount of things from him. Some of it I can repeat and talk about, and some of it I can't. It's that if there was ever a book that's going to be written about the guy, it's going to be two versions of it. You know, one's PG and one's a little different. Kind of like what Jamie's talking about. Killer, pretty tough guys. But what Shelby was an intense competitor. He was nobody knew this, but he was actually a professional softball player at one point, fast-pitch softball. But he was an All-American basketball player also. But he wanted to win, and he wanted to win badly. And I think as a player, as a coach, you picked up on that. And obviously, we all thought we were competitors or are competitors, but it was something that was absolutely reinforced.
Was it Shelby who said, hey, you ought to think about being a coach?
Yeah, what he did, that's funny that you say that. He tried to talk me out of it. I was a GA after I got through playing, and I remember going to his office and saying I was going to coach, and he goes, why do you want to coach? And I go, well, coach, but in a reverse way, he wanted me to tell him why I wanted to coach. But then going around with him all the time, he'd always want to make sure you were getting into it for the right reasons, or you were strong enough to get into it. He'd tell me things like, hey, they're going to name a street after you 1 year, and they're going to run you down that street out of town the next year. He said, you got to be careful what school you go to, because the longer you coach there, the more you're going to look like the mascot. So, Jamie, you got to watch out. One for
Was Shelby the biggest influence on you as a player and as a coach?
Yeah, without a doubt. So many people have influenced me in my life. Norman Ruther was one of the assistant coaches on the staff. It's a big part of how I grew up as a player. But Shelby was the guy that put all of us together there. And, you know, as far as being somebody to learn from, it was really one of the, I don't know where I would be if I hadn't had that opportunity to be around that kind of environment and learn as I went.
Well, you've got to have a favorite Shelby Metcalf story.
Well, just to tell you a little bit about how hard it was back in the day and how brutal it was, as far as they're great people, but they wouldn't last 5 seconds in today's world. You know, I grew up with Abe Lemons, Jim Killingsworth, Eddie Sutton, all those guys. When either I played against them or I coached as an assistant coach against those guys, and they were wonderful to be around, but they wouldn't last in today's environment. For example, to motivate somebody to go to class one time, we had our team pictures preseason because they took the pictures for the press guys, right? And one of our players, or one of the guys, was an actor, right? But then we took all the pictures, and then the photographer says, okay, we're done. And Shelby goes, wait just a second. He goes, Fred, you get out of the picture because you're not taking care of business. When we make the playoffs this year, I want an accurate picture because you won't be around. I don't think you can get away with that nowadays.
So, playing for the Aggies and coaching for the Aggies, and now then you help create the leadership program at Texas A&M. So you must have shown some leadership quality. How did that help you get to the point where you created that leadership part of the school?
I think watching and obviously observing people, being around, being exposed to people, and seeing how people were successful, whether it was playing the sport in all sports, or was it seeing how they administered the sport, or how they actually coached the sport, and being able to pick and choose and see what works out for successful programs. And then also realize that it doesn't always work for you. You got to kind of, embrace what your personality is like. And I always felt kind of a calling that if I had a chance to learn, why couldn't I help other people figure that out? And starting the coaching academy at Texas A&M has been very, very rewarding. Something I never thought I'd end up being involved with. This is probably one of the most, I guess, invigorating things that I've done since the playing days.
What does it mean to you to be inducted into the Southwest Conference Hall of Fame?
Well, having grown up in Texas and, watching one Southwest Conference football game on the weekend, and whoever it was, you didn't know. You watch one, maybe you could catch a radio game, whether it was on KRLD or WAI or something like that. That's what we grew up. And so that's what I aspired to do, is be involved in that and play in that, and to be able to think that I could, have a career associated with Texas, much less just play there. It's just been phenomenal.
You're a great example of inductees at the Southwest Conference Hall of Fame. Congratulations on being our latest inductee. All right, Dr. John Thornton. All right, our final inductee this year is from Texas Tech University, football player Lloyd Hill. When Lloyd Hill graduated from Odessa Permian High School in 1990, he was one of the most highly touted recruits ever for the Red Raiders. He was a parade All-American, rated the #2 prospect in Texas by the Dallas Morning News. 2 years later, in 1992, he set a school record, becoming the first ever player to reach 1,000 receiving yards at Texas Tech. He was named a first-team All-American, led the NCAA in receptions, and the Red Raiders in yards gained and touchdowns scored. His 76 catches for 1,261 yards and a dozen touchdowns came in just 11 games. And this was before Mike Leach brought his high-octane offense to Lubbock. So please welcome and congratulate Lloyd Hill from Texas Tech. All right, Lloyd, who'd you bring with you celebrating today?
All right, I got 2 tables here. I got my first table. I got my wife Anna. Met her in junior high. We're still together. Right?
Attaboy. All right. Yeah.
I got my son Keanu. He just graduated from BYU. He's also a football player there as well.
Good.
I got my brother Roy Williams, the famous Roy Williams from UT. He's here. I got my niece London. She's covering her ears right now. And then I have my mom Chris Hill here. And then my second table, I got a bunch of Texas Tech buddies. And I'm going to call them out.
Okay.
I want to give them credit. I got Anthony Stinnett. He was a receiver with me. I got Rodney Blackshear, who was my mentor when I got to Tech. Wayne Walker. Never played with him, but I'm going to tell you something about this guy. I don't know how old he is, but he can probably still run a 4.2 right now. Yeah, he was one of my mentors as well. I got Patrick Wilson. He's actually my buddy from Odessa, Texas. He was a Longhorn, so he's here. I got Tony Daniels, who also played with me at Permian and on Texas Tech. And I got Mr. Alan Wiles. He was my buddy from Odessa Permian that played with me on the state national championship team in 1989. I got my brother Tracy. I forgot he wasn't sitting there, but my brother Tracy. So it's 3 of us. He's the middle brother. And I got another good friend that's standing next to him is Damian Robertson, also from Odessa Permian. Yeah, I think that's it.
Any of them have any eligibility left? Any of them have any eligibility left?
No. Even if they did, I think they may give you 1 play and that'll be about it.
And you've been married for how long? Oh, sorry, Lloyd. A long time. Now, I was just gonna say, it's obvious what your best catch ever was.
That's right.
Receiver, right? Okay. Wow. Rescued out of that one. So, Lloyd, considering when you played and what you accomplished, first 1,000-yard receiver, you were ahead of your time as a receiver.
Yeah, I think my mom had me way too early, but no, we had a pretty good team back then because we had a balanced attack. I mean, we ran the ball well and we also passed the ball well, which, nowadays, it's pass. But what they don't realize is that if you're running the ball well, that's going to bring the defensive backs up, and that gives me an opportunity to catch more passes. So yeah, I think I played in a pretty good era. A lot of people ask me, wouldn't you like to play in the Leach era? And I'm like, well, no, because back in those days, I was considered, I was the man back then. So the ball always came to me first. So now everybody's getting the passes. So no, I think back in those days, I wouldn't have liked to play in this year.
Yeah. What kind of receiver were you? Were you a speedster? Were you a bruiser? What was your game?
No, I wasn't fast. I had to use other tactics to get open. I prided myself in running really good routes. Catching the ball was my big strength as well because we had a wide receiver coach, Rodney Blackshear can attest to this, named Ivy Williams, one of the meanest guys and the nicest guy at the same time. I'm coming from Odessa, just won a state championship, just won a national championship. You can't say anything to me, right? And I get there and we're just doing pat and go, and I drop the ball, and he looks at me and is like, "You're going against air, why are you dropping the ball? You can't play for me." He said, "You know what, you can keep your shirt, you keep the socks, you gotta go back to Odessa." And and after that, it was all uphill from there because I didn't want to hear him every practice telling me that. So,
but it made you better.
Made me better. And like someone said earlier, his coaching style, I don't think it would have worked today, but it worked with us. It made us better.
You were a parade All-American, number 2 prospect in the state. You narrowed it down to UT, Baylor, and Texas Tech. Why'd you pick the Red Raiders?
Well, the main reason, it was close to home. I had family in Odessa, of course. I had family in Lamesa, Hobbs. I wanted them to be able to come and watch me play and not have to, break the bank trying to come and see me anywhere. Odessa's probably an hour and a half. Lamesa's even closer. So that was one of the main reasons. And also, again, watching those guys like Rodney Blackshear and Tyrone Thurman and all those guys, I'm like, you know what? I can do that. And on my recruit trip, they made me feel at home. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you go on a recruit trip and you're being your guide is a receiver. They're kind of a little reluctant to open up to you because they're thinking you're coming to take their position. I didn't feel that way when I went to Texas Tech, and that was a main reason why I went there.
Who were your biggest rivals with the Red Raiders when you played?
My brother's gonna be mad because all he's been saying is everybody's mad at Texas for some reason. Everybody's had a story about Texas, but yeah, of course, Texas, because they were the big dogs.
They were good, yeah.
They were really good, yeah. And then also, Houston Cougars were they had that air raid team as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think the biggest one out of all of them, I would say UT.
Yeah. Were there a couple games or plays that stood out for you in your career at Texas Tech?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I had 2 of them. Actually, one's kind of boring. Being a wide receiver, back in those days, we had to block as well. And that was another big thing that Coach Williams told us. We have to do our job, regardless if it's catching passes or if it's blocking for the running backs, because when the pass is being thrown, they're doing their job, blocking for the quarterback to get you the ball. So it's one game, it just so happens to be, it was against Baylor. It was a night game, and I can't remember the play, but I had to run a crackback block, and I saw the guy. I could have just let up and let him go, but knowing Coach Williams was watching, and he called down on that telephone if you didn't do your job, and I got a block, and Bam Morris, I'm not sure anybody know him, but Bam Morris scored a touchdown off that play. And then I would say the second one is probably the most exciting. My last year against TCU, like 11 seconds left in the game, we were losing. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm just ready to go home, get on the bus, get my sandwich, and that's it. So they called the play. It was an out up. And I'm looking at the quarterback at the time. Robert Hall was hurt, so we had a substitute, Jason Clements. So he calls the play, and I'm thinking to myself, whatever. So my right tackle, Charlie Biggers, he said, "Come on, Lloyd, give me some of that Mojo Magic." And I'm like, man, get the heck out of here. Anybody got time for the Mojo Magic right now? I'm trying to get to my sandwich, so. So I go out, of course they're in prevent. So I run my little out and up, and I ran the ugliest route of all time. And I turn around, and I look, and the ball's in the air, and I'm like, oh, he threw it to me. Why did you throw it to me, dude? So I look, and the guy that I ran the route on, he bit on it. So I look, the ball comes, I catch it, and I say, okay, there's no one they're going to tackle me, I'm going to go out of bounds, whatever. The guy comes, he misses the tackle, and I'm like, oh, heck no, I'm finna score. So as I get closer, I see 2 more guys coming. I just dove in, and I looked at the referee. If you ever watched the video, I looked at him to make sure he was going to say I was in, and there it was, we won it. No more time on the clock.
And that was against who?
TCU.
Not Texas.
No,
TCU.
No,
There you go.
yeah.
All right. How big a deal was it to you the year you got the 1,000 receiving yards? Were you aware that you were getting close to that number?
When I was playing?
Yeah.
No. Back then, I didn't care too much about yards. I just wanted to play and help my team win. The records come when they come. If they don't, that's fine too. I just want to be known as a guy that went out and did his job. When his number was called, he answered.
Very cool that you're the latest inductee in the Southwest Conference Hall of Fame. What's that mean to you?
It means a lot. It means a lot. As athletes, you never wish that you get an honor like this. It's always about the team. You want to do your job to help the team win a championship. You want to do your job, help your team get acknowledged. So, yeah, this is definitely an honor, and I accept it on behalf of my teammates, my family, because without them, there's no Lloyd Hill.
Congratulations, Lloyd Hill from Texas Tech. Great job. Honored to have you in the museum.